Ready. Play.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time it is in the world, wherever you are tuning in from. I'm here with Mert Atunga. Am I saying your surname right?
Yes, that's correct. It's
Yeah,
pretty close. Don't worry, but it's fine.
all right.
Yes,
Thank you, Mert. Yeah, give me some leeway, or we might be here for 20 minutes.
absolutely.
Yeah,
John, you entered the program with whatever time in the world you are at, but you look the temperature is the key word here for you, I think.
Mert, you're right. It is. I'm in northern Germany, northwestern Germany, and it is chilly outside. But I have just entered my living room, and so it's one of those situations where I've just turned the heating on. So maybe the hat will come off at some point during
All
this
right.
chat, but we'll
No, the hat is
see.
wonderful. I like the hat. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to stay hip, Mert. Mert, by the way, talking of hats, I need an explanation on your hat.
Oh, this is University of Alabama, Birmingham
Got it?
Blazers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the Blazers mascot. I am a graduate of UAB, and I coached the UAB women's tennis team later for 16 years. So yeah, this it's if I tell so I'm a UAB Blazer. If you cut me, I might bleed the green and gold.
Got
So
it.
that's
Well,
what it
isn't
is.
green and gold also the colors of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Albeit I know you're
No, here
exactly City Bridges, right?
black and gold.
Black and
Black
gold.
and gold. Yes, in fact, it's the color of all three Pittsburgh sports teams. Yeah.
My knowledge of American football and North American sports is pretty poor. Fortunately, I know my way around the tennis circuit, so I'm aware that Iga Swiatek, for example, is set to play Madison Keys in what will almost certainly be the second women's semi-final, obviously with those two having played more recently than Arina Sabalenka and mine has gone blank. Arina Sabalenka.
Pavlyuchenkova.
Thank you. Yes,
You're
Pavlyuchenkova.
talking about the match that they played. Yes.
Yeah, of course. And then, of course, the one that's going to come will be Sabalenka against oh dear, Paolo Badosa. But good job.
Yes.
This is good job. This is all pre-recorded. So sometimes I leave in my mistakes, but other times, and I think this will be one of those.
No,
I'll
it's
cut it out.
yeah.
So let's have a quick look at or reflect on Iga Swiatek's straight sets win over Emma Navarro. First of all, what did you make of it? I mean, I thought it would be a little bit closer. I guess in some ways it was, but it wasn't until the second set that Emma finally got a break point. But she was getting to deuce and 30 all and 15 30s, and the rallies seemed to be pretty equal for large parts. But it would often end with an eager sort of fist pump, and eventually she won the match reasonably comfortably.
Yeah, John, I think the score, Swiatek herself said after the match that the match was closer than the score indicated. I would agree for the second set, but I thought Swiatek won the first set fair and square. There was a clear difference there. She dominated that first set, but then in the second set, Navarro had a little bit of a change of tactics, so I can get into it a little bit more in a second. But then she did okay until 2-all, even 3-2. It was close there for a good 20-25 minutes or so, and then that call comes where Swiatek's double bounce is not seen by the referee, and she doesn't say anything. And Navarro apparently should have challenged it immediately. I didn't, and she challenged it after the point was over. Eva Ziraka said no, and that whole debacle made it 4-2 for Swiatek eventually, and then from there on it opened up again. But Navarro did for a little while there steady the ship, and what she did differently for me is the problem that Navarro faced against Swiatek is if you want to accelerate balls against Swiatek and put her forehand in trouble because of her grip or her preparation, this has been talked about many times. Or force her into miss hits, frame shots she may miss. You need to be hitting really high octane shots. Now Navarro can hit a pretty hard shot, but she's not a Sabalenka, or she's not even a Madison Keys. Okay, she doesn't have these bazookas coming off your racket.
Mm-hmm.
She can sometimes hit balls pretty hard, but not consistently and all the time. And it's not enough against Swiatek to do it once. So what she did do well, though, is once the second set began, or at least I saw this as she began to do this in the beginning of the second set more often, is that she started hitting some balls down the middle hard, and not giving Swiatek the angle and forcing Swiatek to also hit it back down the middle. And they got into this down the middle 3 or 4 times rallies in which either Swiatek missed, trying to find an angle that wasn't there, or one of her balls fell short enough to where, or set up high enough to where Navarro could go for the winner to the corners. She missed or she didn't miss. That doesn't matter. But that was what she was trying to establish to gain some sort of upper hand, in the baseline rallies. And for a little while it worked. The Swiatek committed more errors during that time because Swiatek loves having to slide to the corners and hit counterpunch shots or hit sharp angle shots, etc. Both sides, forehand and backhand. And she can also switch a cross-court ball into a down-the-line shot very well. But when you hit it down the middle, or when you return straight down the middle, it's a different story. Then she can still hit a pretty hard shot and keep the ball in play and still, go hard on the opponent. But she doesn't exactly find the angles as well as she usually does. And some of the mistakes that she hit were wide, which tells you that she is more used to hitting them from the sides of the court.
Yeah, there was a few drop shots in there. In fact, that double bounce thing. I think we'll have a short couple of minutes on that double bounce thing at the end, but or more generically. But yeah, I mean, I like that when she did added a bit of variety to her game that maybe she wouldn't always bring, because just putting Iga in a slightly different position is what you have to do. I mean, I'm guessing that as a coach, if you're just going to go, toe to toe with Iga, apart from probably Arina Sabalenka and maybe a red line in Jessica Pegula, there aren't many players on the tour that are going to be able to beat her. Jessica Pegula is an interesting one, actually, because I do see Navarro and Pegula being quite similar. So that gave me some confidence that this would be competitive. I didn't see any signs that Emma was fatigued at all. I mean, I know maybe it was just 1%, which is obviously enough in tennis to make the difference, because of course she played some pretty epic matches en route. I don't know if you want to react to either of those sort of couple of points I just made.
No, you're right. She played the longer matches. She had tougher matches in her pocket, but nonetheless, I do not believe that was a factor. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was a case of match accumulation fatigue. I just think that it was a case of Iga Swiatek just playing the lights out, and she's been doing that throughout the tournament, hasn't she? And and Navarro just basically with her bag pretty full of tools, because Navarro can do many things and she can do many things well. Mm-hmm. So she tried many different things. I mean, she just like you said, even drop shots were in there. It's not like, the Navarro is one of the high IQ players on the women's tennis tour. I would put her up top 10 in terms of IQ for sure, if not higher. And when you have a high IQ and when you have a full bag of tricks, it makes things easier against 99% of players, because then you can go to plan B, you can combine plan A and plan B, and then bring in your plan C once in a while, or then maybe go back to your plan A once established and play the important points this way or that way. But how many important points do you get against a player who's just hitting left and right, and you feel like a 1970s traffic police officer who just said, pass this way, pass that way, and the cars are actually balls just passing you by, and it's just really tough to, how many important points you're going to play when the score is 6-1, 6-2.
Yeah.
So, the opportunities are so much less than if you're able to stay head to head, 3-all, 4-all, 5-all, then you have many more important points to play. And at least your opponent then starts, maybe if they make a mistake or two, then they start questioning, oh my gosh, did I do something right or wrong? I don't think Iga Swiatek ever got into that situation, even in those 20-25 minutes that I talked about earlier.
Madison Keys is going to be the person posing Iga Swiatek the next exam, if you like, of Iga's credentials as for winning her first Australian Open title. Of course, it'll be Madison Keys' first Grand Slam title. So we're in that territory again. We'll sort of come to the sort of mental side of it more specifically in a moment. But first of all, Madison Keys beating Svitolina 3 sets. I really enjoyed this match. It felt like it was, I recently watched, it felt like I sort of watched Carlos against Novak and now I'm watching this one. And they did feel very different. I felt like the pace here was pretty good because I found that Carlos Novak match, as intriguing as it was for 3 sets, it probably only had about one or even half a set of really high quality tennis. And yet here I found the ball striking, but also just, considering both are slightly past the halfway mark in their careers, you would think they might be wanting to slow down. But, next serve, next ball. And I know Svitolina used to be baby was sort of famous for a slightly more conservative style. But I do think that since she's come back, she seems to be playing a bit more aggressively. And it was a fascinating encounter.
Yes. Svitolina, before she stopped playing because of her pregnancy, also in the late stages there, was starting to be fairly aggressive because she was in this situation where she was reaching a lot of quarterfinals, semifinals, not able to advance or not able to get the big one. So she was already leaning this way. And then, of course, like you say, she became pregnant and had a baby and came back. And I think she picked up from that progression rather than something new that she brought in. Along with that, let's keep in mind that she's one of the better counter punchers, and she's got fairly good footwork. So when you're playing Svitolina, you know that you're going to have to hit a lot of shots. You're going to have to produce more than 1 or 2 winning shots. Madison Keys did that, and I think at the end of the day, that's why she pulled it off. Otherwise, Svitolina, for me, is not a good matchup for Madison Keys. She's going to force Madison Keys to hit several big shots, but Madison Keys served extremely well. And one thing that I will say about Keys is her first serve winning percentage is in the 70s, and her second serve winning percentage is above 50%, which is not an easy thing to do. And I think only in one match she was like 48 or 49%, but the rest of the time she's in the 60s, 70s, above 50%. So she's getting a lot of free points off of her serve, and that also took place against Svitolina. But John, it was very close. Svitolina could have won this match. It was super close. I enjoyed this match just like you did. I would also put Navarro versus Kasatkina up there in terms of matches that I enjoyed watching. That one contained a lot of variation and just pleasing to watch. And I agree with you. Madison Keys, especially on the forehand side, she was able to hit some key shots moving away from the ball or moving to the ball on the move rather than, because we know that when she's set, she can, hit the bazookas that I was talking about earlier. But here she hit a lot of shots on the run. And boy, she's good at the net. She's her volleys are not getting enough credit, in my opinion, over the years. And when she comes to the nets, some of the backhand volleys that she's hitting, her technique is really superior to most other players.
We are, of course, now in familiar territory for Madison Keys. Over the last sort of 10 years or so, she's been in semifinals and also won Grand Slam final. I saw some people being a bit gloomy about her chances when she went a set down to Svitolina. Some people on social media who I do respect, even there are 1 or 2 people on social media who can be nice and can be thoughtful. But even they were starting to worry for Madison in terms of this latter stages of a tournament, which she does get to, and then ultimately fall short. I spoke to Madison in June, I think it was, in Strasbourg last year, and highlighted she didn't. I don't think she was overly keen on the point being made, but the Grand Slam goal to win one maybe one day, is that something that you think about? Do you think about some of the near misses? Can you move on from losses such as the one you had against Sabalenka last year? Are they easy to move on from, or are you still thinking about them?
Well, I'm thinking about them now.
Yeah, I think about them.
They probably keep you up more than they do me.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Thanks.
Highlighted this moment, and does she reflect on these results, and how does she feel? Because I'm sure some players can just move on pretty quickly from these kind of losses, and I'm thinking of, for example, the loss she had to Sabalenka in the semifinals of the US Open. and other players can dwell on them, both in a good way and a bad way, learn from them, etc., etc. She does seem to be someone I would suggest that has dwelt on them and probably does, bother her even years on. Given her response to my question, it is something that I think is still there, and I'm sure she'd love to put those demons, if you like, to bed. What are your thoughts on Madison at this stage of the tournament, and also the mental aspect of her match with Iga Swiatek?
Sure. No, you summarized it very well, and she's it's one thing to hand wave a tragic loss that that may take place one time in the final of a tournament, as long as you win some of the tournaments too, or as long as you win one of the tournaments sometime in the future. But if you lose, say, 4, 5, 6 finals tragically without ever winning a title, then that becomes a monkey on your back. And I think for Keys, winning a tournament or beating the top players in the world is not an issue. She's done that before. For her, the issue is not winning tournaments either. She's done that before, playing 4 or 5 good matches. Probably the issue for her, and this is what probably you were touching on, is to win 7 matches in a row. In other words, to come up with 7 great performances in a row to win a major. And she came really close to it one time, losing to Sloane Stephens in the finals of US Open. We've had majors in which she played 3 or 4 matches fantastically, and terrific performances, which led a lot of people over the years to say, oh, she's going to win this one. And she didn't. So all that culminated in this situation where now she has to carry the image, even if she may not believe this in herself, or she may hand wave it herself. She's carrying the image in the eyes of tennis fans as the person who's not able to yet, at least yet put 7 matches or 7 great performances in a row to win a major. And the best way to put that behind you is to go ahead and do it. Here's a great chance. If she can beat Swiatek in the semis, and then lo and behold beat possibly Sabalenka. I don't want to say for sure Sabalenka because she still has to beat Badosa. But then nobody can say anything like that about you anymore. You basically crushed that to the ground and buried it 5 kilometers below the ground. Yeah. So this is a great opportunity. She's playing well, and let's see what happens here. I think, John, if I may move on to the semifinal, to say a few words about semifinal. First of all, I think Keys is coming into the semifinals more match ready. She played challenging. When I say this, I mean not that Swiatek did not play matches. No, she's match ready too. But Keys played challenging matches here, especially against Ruse. Again against Svitolina, where she was challenged in every way possible. She's match ready in terms of having to play clutch points, having to make second serves on break points, etc., 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 etc. She had to face all aspects of the tennis match. And Swiatek, I can't really say that for her. A lot will depend on Swiatek's first serve percentage and Keys' ability to nail the second serve returns for winners, or at least to set the next shot up for a winner. Yeah. And because if Swiatek has to serve a lot of second serves, I can easily see Keys stepping inside the baseline every single time and nailing the ball for a winner. Another key is the backhand cross-court duels. Both do it well. Both like to do it, hitting the ball backhand cross-court. And the variable here is how efficiently will they use the down the line acceleration off of the cross-court shot. They both have that shot. Swiatek likes to use it a lot. Keys maybe not as much, but hits it well nonetheless when she tries it. So Keys will want to get into this type of rally, in my opinion, the backhand warp speed cross-court rallies. But she may also consider hitting it hard down the middle in the same way that Navarro tried for the first 3 or 4 games of the second set earlier today. So, it's not because, once again, when you hit cross-court with Swiatek, you're also giving her the angle that she likes, except that Keys can hit a lot harder than Navarro. can. So when they're getting into these rallies, Swiatek is going to have less time to prepare. So the little success that Navarro had earlier today was versus Iga was when she would hit it hard down the line, few shots before trying for winners, as we talked about earlier. Except that Navarro again did not have the bazooka power of Key's strokes. So another last key point on this is first serve winning percentage. Again, Keys has to win a really high percentage of first serves and second serves. So far, she's been in the 70s, I think. I haven't looked at every single match, but I know she's been above 50% almost in every match. On the second serve, I'm talking about the second serve. On the first serve, she's in the 70s. And she needs to keep that trend. And if possible, make the first serve percentage higher. If she can get up to, 80% first serves and still be able to win second serves above 50%, I think she'll have a chance to beat Swiatek.
The Madison Keys resume, yes, it is missing a Grand Slam title, as we will know, and I'm sure she's aware of that. 3 semifinals in Australia and a semifinal in the French. 3, of course, including this year's run. Quarterfinals.
Yeah, John, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but let me underline, just like you mentioned just now,
Sure.
the semifinals. She, in some of these tournaments you just mentioned, she played great. She played like she was going to win the tournament, and then comes the quarterfinals or semifinals, and there's a kind of a subpar performance which takes her out of it. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just wanted to
it's
underline
fine.
that
I mean,
point.
the resume is just, the nearly woman of tennis. I know Ons Jabeur with a couple of painful Grand Slam final losses, or a couple of Wimbledon final losses, and also, of course, that one at the US Open as well. She would probably battle for that, and maybe Mukova to some extent, especially with the injuries. But she is probably the nearly woman of tennis. And again, I like the word you used, opportunity. I think a mental side of it. I think if we think of things as being an opportunity, if you like, and being a chance there's two ways of looking at this, and it's an opportunity. Okay, here we go. My goodness me, I'm going to play Iga Swiatek and potentially Aryna Sabalenka, maybe Paula Badosa. But this is for some people it's a daunting opportunity, and for others it's a hey, let's go. And fingers crossed she can be more in the let's go category. Of course, a Grand Slam final as well in New York is also part of her resume too, and that loss of Sloane Stephens that you mentioned. 4-1 is the head-to-head. Good news for Madison is that this won't be played on clay. She said to me last year, also during that Strasbourg run to the title, that obviously that was a tournament on clay, but I said to her, what's it like to play Iga on clay? And she just said, it sucks. Played against Iga recently. I'm just wondering, what is it like to play Iga Swiatek on clay?
It sucks. Yeah, it sucks. Because she's really good. I think she moves really well on the clay, and she kind of times everything really well, and you feel like she doesn't really get wrong-footed very often. And she's just able to kind of reset the point over and over and over again. So you feel like you never really get ahead. And then I feel like you start trying to make something out of nothing. And that's when I think you start missing more and going for too much. And she just does a really good job at constantly keeping pressure on you.
And we moved on to the next question, but it was a great comment. It got lots of traction, I'll tell you that. But her one win, of course, coming in Cincinnati in 2022, also in straight sets. So that's kind of good news for her that one win did come on a hard court, at least. I don't know whether the Australian courts this year are a little bit slower than other years. That's what I'm hearing. And I'm not sure if that might just be a little bit of a 1% swing towards Iga, not that she needs too many swings.
That's true.
You can either react to anything I've just said, but I also
no. The only thing I want to say is, when normally, John, when we say here's our chance to get over the hump of winning a major title, and one of the reasons why I think this is also a good chance is because I don't think anybody will be on her case too much if she plays a good match and loses to Iga Swiatek,
okay,
or beats Swiatek and plays a fairly good match and loses to Sabalenka. The losses that she's had in the past sometimes have been where she was not expected to lose, and she was actually going out to the court, perhaps even the favorite to win that match.
Or
So
Mert,
this is
put
what
her in or Mert, and this is my turn to interrupt you. Or she puts herself in a position like she did against Arena, where,
exactly. So this, this is where she's mature enough. She's been here many times. I think she's got all the factors in her favor. And here's a chance. You can look at, just like you said, you can look at it as a challenge. I'm going to beat the best two players in the world and win the title, and I'll never look back from here.
Well, I think I'm leaning Iga. It's probably the most boring, sort of slightly more boring prediction. I'll probably go for Iga in 3. I often think about with these sort of predictions, really we're probably looking at more percentages than it's very difficult to know 3, 4, 5 sets, of course, on the men's side and 2 or 3 on the women's. But I mean, as a percentage, I am leaning towards Iga, so that probably would be either 2 very tight sets, or I think she's going to be challenged. I really hope it, and I guess one thing against Iga might be the lack of matches, or the lack of match time. She's lost just 14 games en route to the semi-finals. I know there's stats out there with other players that have lost even fewer, but still, she's not spent a huge amount of time on court. I don't think Madison has spent too much time on court that it might be a problem. I think she's nicely battle-hardened, as you mentioned. But I am going to go for Iga. I'll go Iga in 3 sets.
Unless either of them suffers some sort of an injury during the match, which I hope doesn't happen.
Sure.
I think this is going to be a very close match. I'm going to go for Iga also, but 7-6 in the third. And I would not be shocked whatsoever if Madison Keys pulls off the upset.
Yeah, I think from our chat about this, I think you are optimistic about Maddie's chances. Let's say that, albeit that we're both probably just going for an Iga win in the end.
Yeah, I think if she faced this type of challenge, the best players in the world coming up in the next 2 matches, in her first major semifinal back when she was, 20, 19, 21 years old, I would think differently. But here, this is she'll be ready for this.
Obviously, Iga will be advancing to the semifinals now. She's going to play Madison Keys. But yeah, let's talk about the semifinals. I don't know if you're ready, Vansh, now, but let's talk about the semifinal between Swiatek and Madison Keys. 4-1 for Iga in the head-to-head, but the only match that they played on, let's say, on a very fast hard court, it was in Cincinnati, but let's say on a court faster than Indian Wells, it was actually Keys that won.
Yep, 2022 Cincinnati, obviously. Iga, for me, goes in as a pretty heavy favorite, actually, having seen what I just seen from her the last 3-4 rounds. She looks like the player to beat, maybe even at this tournament. I mean, we'll see, depending on what happens in the final. But the way I've seen Swiatek just move Keys around, like make her play low percentage tennis, and just kind of what she's capable of doing when she gets a lead, it will be very, very hard for Maddie to stop that. So, and I guess nighttime conditions would be a little bit of a change for both, because they've mostly been playing in the day, apart from around each. Yeah, I feel pretty good about this from an Iga perspective.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a very different matchup. Someone you can actually see pushing Iga, because it's so natural for Maddie to just come out and blast the ball, and the ball striking talent is absolutely fantastic. But we've seen this also happen to her, like of course on clay, but where Iga's athletic potential, movement, defense is very strong, and then obviously she can also like engage with Maddie in a hitting contest and prevail. So yeah, I mean, Keys would have to just like execute her game absolutely perfectly on the day. I think that's clear. When Cincinnati 2022 happened, that was that part of the season where Iga, after the entire win streak was like a little off for a while, everybody after Caroline Garcia in Warsaw started attacking her second serve and even first serve, just like demolishing it. And that's what Beatriz Haddad-Maia did in Canada. That's what Madison Keys did in Cincinnati. Then, of course, the US Open, there's also a couple of very tough matches along the way to that title. So, yeah, it's clear that Iga is the favorite. Like, Maddie has a chance if she's, like, absolutely spotless on the day, and the aggressive hitting is just so overwhelming. We know that the second serve, at least, of Swiatek will be under fire. That's, like, something that Keys always does. That's something she will definitely have a shot at doing. But yeah, at the moment, it looks like Swiatek is the likelier finalist for sure. That's not really a bold call, but yeah, I love it for Maddie to have another Grand Slam semi. I think that eventually, further down the line, she kind of deserves that title, but of course, it's gonna be very tough to get it, and probably not here, considering the names that are remaining in the event.
Yeah, she's on a 10-match win streak. She has a lot of momentum. She's been playing the big points pretty well, especially in her last 2 matches. And like you said, yeah, the second serve, she's going to look to attack that right from the get-go and be in the front foot in those rallies. But when the movement comes into it, I am a little bit worried about her just because she also has a lot of tape on her left leg or something today as well. She didn't come out of the gates quite that strong. She really had to kind of work her way into the match. And against Iga, yeah, that early part of the match, the first few games are so important. And I think we'll kind of see early on if Iga comes out and has like a 3-love, 4-love lead. It's going to be very hard for Keys to come back.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.